all of the plastics we've produced in the last 40, 50 years is still with us. Even just one additional truck is going to impact our community negatively.
That will not only affect those of us today, but certainly for generations to come.
Long Island will look really different by the end of this century.
We're never going to be fully prepared for a storm like Sandy.
Addressing climate change is actually a path to economic security.
Good evening, I'm Alicia Reed, and this is Climate Change Protecting Our Planet. I'm on the Esplanade in Battery Park City, and blue light poles like this one tell the story of rising sea levels. 18 to nearly 24 feet of a potential storm surge is possible in the coming decades. But as our team of reporters will show you, evidence of climate change is here now. With extreme weather and environmental changes threatening our planet, the impact is real and scary, but there is hope. We'll show you some solutions. New York City, known as the concrete jungle due to its high rises, lack of trees, congestion, and toughness. And when it comes to the complexities of protecting the coastal city as the climate changes,
We're never going to be fully prepared for a storm like Sandy.
but since the superstorm hit in 2012, New York has made resiliency a priority. The $1.5 billion Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project at Stuyvesant Cove Park is the largest single coastal flood resiliency undertaking in New York City, according to the city's chief climate officer.
This will keep up to 13 feet of tidal surge in the East River and protect the Lower East Side.
Further south in Manhattan, green infrastructure at the new Battery Park Resilience Project isn't just about flood barriers and stormwater drainage. The open green space attracts visitors from all over. On rainy days, the turf on a number of school playgrounds that students actually help design aren't just there for good looks. They avert water that would otherwise overwhelm the city's sewer system and treatment plants.
We've estimated that we're able to capture about 40 million gallons of stormwater each year from our playgrounds. That's, a large chunk of water that's not going into the city's sewer systems.
Minimizing flooding and the spread of toxins in New York hasn't been perfected. And depending on where one lives, Columbia Climate and Business School professor Bruce Usher says vulnerable populations are disproportionately impacted.
You live in a community that's affected by flooding. It's obviously going to affect your quality of life, but now perhaps employment drops in outdoor activities, incomes go down, people have to move, but the value of their home that they have is perhaps less valuable.
Balancing housing, economic needs, protecting the population, and securing landscape is an all-encompassing effort.
Addressing climate change is actually a path to economic security, because in the long run, a lot of our problems are generated by the climate crisis, our inability to manage our resources in a way that takes care of everybody.
Preserving our coastlines and waterways is essential as we continue to deal with the impact of climate change. I'm Jennifer McLogan on Long Island. Residents and activists are calling for changes in how we live and work, some even taking matters into their own hands to save our planet. At age 24, George Thatos of Manhasset is on a mission to reverse course on a slippery slope.
Try and help the ecosystems that I've been in love with for my whole life. From the tops of the cliffs, down the bluffs, to the beach, and into the ocean.
An environmentalist, entrepreneur, and eco-friendly patent holder.
This is what we call a dune guard. This is our oyster stacks device. This is our cliff stabilizer device.
Thatos believes the best defense against erosion that's overwhelming Long Island is simple and low-tech.
These native grass species have actually evolved over millions of years to stabilize their environment.
At Sands Point Preserve, Thatos is working to bring them back. Amid man-made concrete walls crumbling, he says there is a better natural protection. Dune grasses, bayberry, beach plum.
They've specifically evolved to grab onto sediments, glue them together with their root systems.
Plants reduce runoff, making Long Island Sound ideal for his experimental oyster reefs.
These devices are not just for erosion, they are to help integrate human technology with nature.
There are already some tiny oysters on there.
Inside Stony Brook's Marine Sciences Laboratory, Professor Christopher Gobler studies coastal waters and harmful algae.
When they get like this dense and then they collapse, that can lead to loss of oxygen in the water.
Gobler and his students track the warming water and coastal changes, even rescued tropical fish and seahorses stranded here after swimming up from the Gulf.
I love the seahorses. They're all from Shinnecock Bay.
Here they study climate change on clams, oysters, snails, conch, and sea urchins, building oyster reefs to lower nitrogen levels and clean our bays.
We are in harm's way. People feel like the issue of climate change is so overwhelming.
Adrian Esposito's Citizens Campaign for the Environment says there are ways to overcome the doom and gloom.
We must make a strategic retreat.
A regional approach to move inland and to higher ground, she says.
There's a lot of infrastructure we might not be able to move, but we can fortify it.
Long Island will look really different by the end of this century.
Allison Branco, climate director for the Nature Conservancy, predicts 6 feet or more of vertical sea level rise, changing the shape of Long Island.
Fire Island is a really difficult situation because of sea level rise. What it really is a big sandbar, but we have houses and stores and whole communities there, and so we need to figure out some solutions to help those folks relocate to a safe place so that we continue to enjoy the beaches of Fire Island, which are some of the most important both culturally and economically for Long Island. The good news is there's a ton of funding available these days to do some of these really important projects.
Helping raise power grids, secure sewage treatment plants, upgrading culverts where roads cross streams, transitioning to renewable energies.
New innovation is needed desperately now more than ever before, and that really motivated me to take matters into my own hands and find inspiration from nature.
We're providing affordable housing and we're dealing with the future.
There you go, just a bite.
This is an undue burden to our community.
Fashion industries contribute about 10% of global emissions.
Welcome back to Climate Change, Protecting Our Planet. I'm Jessie Mitchell, and I'm on top of the Javits Center on Manhattan's West Side. New York City shows no signs of slowing its growth, but what's growing on and in buildings like this might surprise you. This roof-to-table farm is just one example of how the city is building a greener future.
Rain or shine, an isolated ecosystem takes shape under the meticulous care of Brooklyn Grange farmers. CEO Ben Flanner tells me what makes this project different from their other farms was a conceptual collaboration from the ground up.
It's truly a circular system, and Javits had the foresight to design that into the construction, which was really important.
A 340,000-gallon cistern beneath the building collects stormwater for the farm's irrigation. Javits then uses the fruits, vegetables, and herbs to serve the conference center's clients at Cultivated.
Farmers grow 20,000 pounds of food up here each year, and whatever's not eaten by visitors to the convention center gets donated to the Bowery Mission.
A lot of this has resprouted through the winter. That's why a lot of these are kind of small florets.
That looks good enough to eat.
Yes, of course, this is great. Would you like to try a little floret?
Sure.
While new climate-focused construction continues, projects around the city are also addressing the complicated needs of older buildings, like the hundreds of aging housing authority properties. NYCHA is now piloting new window units to bring central heat and air to longtime tenants at the Woodside houses in Queens, who never had their own temperature control.
Ever since we had this, the air is so pure, you know, and you can breathe.
Data NYCHA is collecting shows successfully sustained temperatures with smaller consumption, helping to achieve the agency's goal to reduce emissions by 80% by 2050.
We're seeing big improvements in the amount of energy that it takes to heat one of these apartments, and we think it has a lot of potential for being the new solution for heating and cooling.
This complex is simultaneously seeing newly designed roofs and outer walls as well. Harlem-based advocacy group We Act for Environmental Justice hopes to show homeowners how they too can contribute to combat climate change. A brownstone they bought from the city for $1 is now being transformed into a new passive design that includes solar panels on the roof and space for community groups.
We want them to understand the issues and be able to engage and to develop solutions.
Senator Chuck Schumer recently awarded We Act $1 million towards programming in the new headquarters, which includes training a local solar workforce. New market rate apartment development, Perch Harlem, also boasts a passive footprint. And the city's Housing Preservation and Development Commissioner Adolfo Carrion says that's the goal for a series of all new projects announced this year as part of a 24 and 24 plan to address both housing needs and the climate crisis. The agency held its first community meeting for neighbors to provide feedback on what they hope to see. Now architects will submit designs with those ideas in mind.
We're achieving a number of objectives here. We're providing affordable housing, developing sites that are underdeveloped and are a drag on neighborhoods, and we're dealing with the future, which is the climate change impacts.
At Javits, the farm sees the results of their efforts when wildlife stop by on their way down the Hudson River.
We have multiple bats that come through the orchard at night. We have mushrooms fruiting around the trees. Just a huge amount of biodiversity. The urban heat island effect is a real thing. It's warmer in the city. But if we can have trees, ground level plantings, green roofs, all those things can slowly work to absorb some of that heat, combat it, and create a healthier environment for us.
I'm Lisa Rosner in Fort Lee, New Jersey at the George Washington Bridge. This is one of several areas the MTA projects will see increased traffic and therefore pollution because of congestion pricing. We take a closer look. It's a weekday afternoon and traffic is moving. Is this a good day?
Yeah.
A good day, Fort Lee resident Richard Galler says, because he was able to leave his house. A few times a week, he says there's bumper-to-bumper traffic.
I've had asthma for years, but the problem is as pollution increases, it gets worse.
They have to take steps like, keeping their windows shut. That's no way to live.
The fear is that will become more frequent from congestion pricing. The mayor says there's an anticipated 20% increase in traffic volume. Galler and the borough of Fort Lee are suing the MTA over its congestion pricing plan set to take effect in June. But the MTA's own environmental assessment predicts vehicles and trucks will divert around Manhattan to avoid the toll. It says the diversions will be most pronounced at the approach to the Robert F. Kennedy Bridge in Queens, across the South Bronx and the George Washington Bridge, and into northern New Jersey. Diversions to the south would occur across the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and through Staten Island. The MTA study forecasts an increase in all pollutants in Bergen County, parts of Staten Island, and the South Bronx.
Here we see that there was a spike on April 2nd at around 4:45.
At the nonprofit South Bronx United, the team tracks 20 air quality monitors set up in what's known as Asthma Alley, the neighborhood surrounded by the major Deegan Expressway, the Bruckner, and the Cross Bronx Expressway.
In some scenarios, hundreds more trucks would traverse these expressways that surround us.
That's why these additional air monitors are about to be installed. Clean Air Program organizer Leslie Vasquez says already 1 in 4 area residents have asthma.
Even just one additional truck is going to impact our community negatively.
On Staten Island, the impacts of congestion pricing are being called an environmental injustice, with the areas in blue expected to see the biggest increase in air pollution. The NAACP branch recently joined the borough's lawsuit against the MTA.
This is an undue burden to our community.
Borough stats show in 2013 in Port Richmond, about 91 out of 1,000 children had asthma, much higher compared to the rest of New York City.
That will not only affect those of us today, but certainly for generations to come.
The MTA analysis did find 74% of areas it deemed environmental justice zones would experience a decrease in heavy-duty diesel vehicles. Michelle Lee researches vehicles' impact on climate change.
In London, after the first year they implemented the congestion zone pricing, they found that congestion reduced by 30% and pollution reduced by around 25%.
The MTA plans to have a zero-emissions bus fleet by 2040. It is also prepared to spend $130 million from tolling to try to mitigate the impacts on families in the Bronx and parts of the outer boroughs. Some proposed solutions include installing new air filtration units near schools, more vegetation, and spending $25 million on an asthma treatment program.
What will you do within the next couple of months? Kids are missing out on school days because they have an asthma attack.
Health is the single most important thing, and that's what we're trying to preserve.
Recycling isn't the sort of panacea solution that many of us grew up learning about.
I just like the idea of like recycling clothes and not having to keep on processing more and more.
I'm meteorologist Vanessa Murdoch, and this is about a week's worth of plastic waste generated by my family of 4. We are a part of the enormous plastic pollution problem impacting Earth. Now, we do put this curbside in our blue bin, but not everything you see here will get recycled.
400 million tons. That's how much plastic waste we humans create each year, according to the UN Environment Program. That's more weight in plastic than 1,200 Empire State Buildings. And more than 90% of it ends up in landfills and our oceans, and some in our bodies, too. It's everywhere, says Ana Baptista with the New School University.
Almost all of the plastics we've produced in the last 40, 50 years is still with us.
And will be for hundreds of years.
Recycling isn't the sort of panacea solution that many of us grew up learning about. Right?
Baptista says today only 5% of plastics get recycled in the U.S.
It's really difficult to recycle many of the plastic products we think can be recycled.
And it's cheaper to make new ones. Thankfully, innovation means more environmentally friendly products will and do take the place of plastic.
This will work like a traditional plastic fork does.
But it's made from rice husks. PlantSwitch CEO and co-founder Dylan Baxter says plants are the new plastic.
What we've developed at PlantSwitch is a truly biodegradable and compostable alternative to plastic.
According to Baxter, rice husks typically become waste, but could be the solution. At PlantSwitch, rice husks get turned into a proprietary resin, which can be fed into existing plastic machinery. The cost per utensil, more than plastic, for now. Luke's Lobster, with several locations around the city, serves up more than delicious rolls. Ask and receive PlantSwitch cutlery with your to-go order.
Once we became a certified B Corp, we realized that just sourcing sustainable seafood was not really enough.
Co-founder and Chief Innovation Officer Ben Conniff shares soon the cardboard clamshell container for its to-go rolls will be compostable too.
They're going to be made from wood pulp here in the state of Maine, harvested in the state of Maine, and manufactured here.
In the Laundro Lab at the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, Associate Research Professor Beizan Yan works with a team to develop a filtration technique that would remove micro and nanoplastic pollutants from washing machine wastewater.
Similar technology can be used for the drinking waters.
In this unfiltered wastewater, it's easy to spot stuff floating. But after filtering, look at the collection.
The microfibers right there.
Without filtration, those microfibers end up in the water. In fact, Yan shares about 70% of micro and nanoplastics found in waterways around the city come from laundry. And globally, they account for about 35%. Another source of teeny tiny plastic particles, tire wear.
You think about your tires, but you never really think about where that wearing part goes.
Phoebe Stapleton, a resident scientist at Rutgers University Environmental and Occupational Health Institute, shares plastic incineration and the breakdown of plastic in landfills are also to blame for the existence of plastic everywhere now.
We know that they're getting into our system.
Scientists found them in human placenta, lung tissue, in arterial plaque. Stapleton's research revealed plastic particles can pass from mother to fetus.
We know they're there, but are they actually causing any problems?
So that's the next step, and that's where the biggest area of research is.
You know, when we think about ways that we can be a little bit more eco-friendly, we think about using paper straws or recycling or reusable bags. But the thing is, you can help the environment in a number of ways. Maybe even by walking the streets of New York, shopping. In a city that prides itself in the new, we find an oasis of nostalgia and sustainability.
We're really all about keeping clothes in the cycle, keeping them out of landfills, keeping them in closets.
New York City has more thrift stores and flea markets than any other city, and Buffalo Exchange is just one treasure trove of thrifting. Their commitment to the environment is woven into the fabric of the business.
Fashion industries contribute about 10% of global emissions.
There are now twice as many garments produced annually than 15 years ago.
Everyone loves to thrift. If you're like, oh, where'd you get that? And you're like, oh, I thrifted it. It's way cooler, and you're also not being wasteful.
Every American throws away an average of 80 pounds of clothes per year. By shopping secondhand, customers help reduce that staggering number, one chic, pre-loved piece at a time. We've become more aware of the net negative of fast fashion. But what is fast fashion?
People use it like once or twice and then they throw it away, and it's become like a waste, like a really huge waste.
In fact, 73% of new clothes are thrown away within a year.
I just like the idea of like recycling clothes and not having to keep on processing more and more.
The fashionable share a common thread with those choosing a sustainable path by cherishing a piece of the past.
I think that's the thing that makes thrift stores so fun, is that it's such an adventure, like sifting through all the clothes, knowing that each one is like directly tied to someone that came before you.
Thanks so much for watching Climate Change, Protecting Our Planet. For more information, we have a list of resources on our website. And remember, it's up to all of us to be guardians of the planet. Even small actions can make a difference. I'm Alicia Reed. Good night.